morning, everyone.
Morning.
It's good to see everybody this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now in the hands of Ms. Lisa Lambert.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, October 31st. We have approval of minutes from October 24th.
Any issues, anyone? We good?
Appeals, we have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on
The finance report's delayed 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yes. Okay. We have appeals. We have requests for waiver of the noise ordinance on October 31st from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Elmira Street. November 18th on South Royal Street from 6 p.m. until 12 a.m. June the 8th, Fort Condy in 7:15 until 11:15. December the 2nd, Gulfdale Street and South Dolphin Street, Dolphin Island, Dolphin Island Parkway, sorry, on December 2nd from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. And November the 4th, 6 p.m. until 10 p.m., Chester Court. December 15th through the 16th, 6 p.m. until 10 p.m., Westbury Drive. November the 1st through the 19th, 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. in Langham Park.
Any issues, Carol or Gregory?
Wait. What is this one? I'm just curious what this one at Langham Park.
Oh, it's the Pack Theater is doing a production out there.
Yeah. And they're going to be out there every night from 5 to 10?
It's
I
two,
don't-
it's two casts.
Yeah,
It's two casts and 10 shows. And
It's what?
two casts and 10 shows. So that's every night. So they'll have a show every night or two shows every day. I forgot what it is. Guy ask Morgan, she'll tell us. She's not in this one, but I mean, ask
I
Morgan.
think it's Jacob.
Yeah.
Love?
Uh-huh.
Love?
Yeah, and you got everything in the pack is produced by teenagers and kids that are young. The lights, they handle everything and just like
But the show itself probably doesn't go on until 10, I'm guessing.
That's right.
It ends before that, and then they just.
they got to clean up the lights and everything that goes.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Well, in case the weather is a certain, way, a lot of times it carries, so,
Some are for rehearsals.
pardon me?
Some of the dates are for rehearsals.
Madam Clerk?
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Karen McCants, questions regarding small business based on the city's rescue plan, assistance for small businesses based on the city's rescue plan.
I can tell you a little bit about that. Ms. McCants lives in my district, but she has a storefront in the mall. And I know she and some of the other smaller businesses in the mall are concerned about survival. And so they're interested in what, if anything, the People's First plan can help them with. So that's what she'll be talking about.
Will we have somebody to address those questions that she may have? Okay, all right.
Okay, Christine Dallas, Alex Lofton, Michelle Simons, Betty Martin, Reverend Tony Augud, Marvin Charles Lou Jr., and Reverend Jim Flowers are all here to talk about Juwan Dallas and transparency, community concerns, the Mobile Police Department. Reggie Hill regarding rules pertaining to presentation, claims, letters, et cetera, selective targeting and discrimination and economic development. Ordinance is held over. 02047. Ordinance to provide for the reapportionment of the 7 council districts for the city of Mobile.
Council. All right, Madam Clerk?
34050. Ordinance to amend Chapter 34, licenses and taxation of the Mobile City Code.
Anyone from the council?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
I have a few questions about this that may be best answered between Michael Linder and Mr. Rossler. I'd like this to go one more week.
Mr. Rossler? Anything? Did you have anything? Oh.
No, sir, just
Oh,
in
okay.
case there's any questions.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Mr. Jones and I spoke over it.
Council, if that's your desire for another week?
It's fine.
All right.
Consent resolutions held over 371170 and 371171, recommending approval to the ABC Board for issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license to DeCam Lounge on Dolphin Island Parkway, and issuance of a lounge retail liquor Class 1 license to D-Spot Ultra Lounge on Highway 90 West.
I'm good.
CIP resolutions held over 091186, transfer funds from capital project CIP Parks Taylor Park improvements to project grant match holding account to be used as match for the Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. Resolutions held over 141102, approving application seeking permission to incorporate a capital improvement cooperative district and authorizing such incorporation.
President.
Mr. Carroll.
I'm asking that we hold this over to 16 November. The school board was unable to get it on their agenda. Also, waiting on Jay Ross too. I talked to him this morning, so he's still doing due diligence now with the hierarchy of the county commission.
November the 16th is
Yeah.
not a,
Is it
November 21st or 14th?
14 November.
14.
The 14th?
14 November, yes.
211164, authorized contract with Tetra Tech, Inc. for disaster consulting services.
This is all clear. I got a nice letter from everybody that checked conflicts on this, and it's, they're separating it. There was still some concern for me, knowing that they'll know what the total appropriation is for the contract once it comes to invoicing. But you guys said the conflict is clear.
Anyone else?
031187, appoint Robert Lasky as Executive Director of Public Safety. 031188, appoint Johnny Morris as Chief of Mobile Fire and Rescue Department. 031189, appoint Luckett Robinson to the Mobile Airport Authority. 031190, appoint Sidney King to the Mobile Housing Authority. 081191, approve purchase order to Stivers Ford Lincoln for 26 Ford F-150 police package trucks. 081192, approve change to purchase order to Stivers Ford Lincoln for 49 Ford police package trucks. 081193, approve purchase order to Sun South for John Deere tractor for public services. 131194, authorized change order number 1 with Blue Diving and Salvage for 3 Mile Creek dredging project. 211195, authorized contract with E. Cornell Malone for roof replacement at Hope Community Center. 311196, accept covenant of purpose, use, and ownership between the city and the U.S. Department of Treasury for segment 7 of the 3 Mile Creek Greenway Trail. 1197 and 1198 are authorizing settlement agreement, mutual release agreement with Solid Waste Authority, and release of claims, University of South Alabama. Ordinance is being introduced, 88051, ordinance deeming properties at 2652 and 2656 Weems Drive not now needed for public or municipal purposes and authorizing the sale. Consent resolutions being introduced, 031201, appoint Carveen Adams as a full-time judge of the municipal court. 1202, approve award a special bonus to the Administrative Services Employee of the Month. 1203, 1204, 1205, no, 1203 and 1204. Determine an appropriation to Marching Cougars Band Booster Club and Princeton Woods Homeowners Association serve for public purpose and approve payment. Resolutions being introduced, 01-1205, authorized agreement for grant participation with the Southwest Alabama Regional Highway Safety Office. 08-1206, approve purchase orders for fuel for the Wave Transit System. 08-1207, approve purchase order to CL Dews and Sons Foundry and Machinery for storm drain catch basin grates and frames, $21,819. 08-1208, approve purchase order to Civic Plus for 1-year subscription plus implementation of agenda management software for city clerk's office, $21,975.75. And we
Don't you wanna-
ask that, yeah, we
This one.
vote on this one today. The quote expires today. 08-1209, approve purchase order to Emergency Equipment Professional for engine and fuel system for fire pumper truck, $55,069.68. 08-1210, approve purchase order to Lights Inc. for July and August drive cam services for motor pool, $48,658.27. 08-1211, approve purchase order to SHI International Corp. for 1-year subscription for Adobe Sign Acrobat and Creative Cloud document management software for MIT, $54,485.33. 09-1212, allocate funds from the unassigned fund balance in the general fund to capital improvement fund, capital project, Civic Center, new parking facility, $9,660,000.
Council,
Mr. President.
Mr. Woods.
Just a quick question from the administration, if you don't mind. Obviously, this has gotten a lot of attention. I've had several questions. Would you mind walking us through how we got up or how we are at the extra 9 million? Just to kind of shed light on that a little bit.
Morning.
There we go. I'm George Talbot, Vice President with Volkert. As you're aware, we're the program manager. Thanks to your vote, we came into that job last month and have been working to help manage the bid process. The RFP went out prior to us coming on, but we worked to receive the bids and then call through them. I've got with me today our company president, Leon Barkin, who's here in our Mobile office, Mr. Stan Winter, who's the program executive for this project, and Mr. Sam Matheny, who's the program manager. Sam is embedded here at the city on a day-to-day basis, helping manage it. So, to answer any questions you have, we're prepared to give you a more in-depth briefing if you would like. We can answer questions individually, collectively, however you would like to proceed. We've got a full team here, and as well, I should mention Mr. Brandon Miller from White Spunner, who was the low bidder. So it's however you'd like to proceed, sir, if you'd like to.
Mr. Woods.
Just kind of one of the questions that I've gotten is obviously low bidder. Was there any bids thrown out that were lower than the low bid?
We had a total of 5 bids. Those should be in your packet. White Spunner was the lowest. I'm not aware of any being thrown out. No, sir.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Hold up. You done, Mr. Woods? Okay. Mr. Reynolds.
I mean, it looks like everybody's bid was, within a few percentage points of each other. So there's obviously, consistency in various components of the bid of this. My questions really is, and it's really going forward to the Civic Center project as a whole and maybe other big projects we have, is how did we get it so wrong when we were expecting it to be 30 and we're now, 30% more? We were sort of operating with the understanding with, the Corps of Engineers project, it being built. We're building this parking deck, of course, for ourselves to free up the real estate at the Civic Center site. But when we were considering the Corps of Engineers project, we were thinking, okay, it's going to be $30 million and they're going to buy some parking decks, but now we're 30% higher. So my question would be is how did Volkert come up with the price?
No, sir.
Okay, so, and I just think it's very important to point out that when we start considering this Civic Center project and these other projects, we can't operate with the understanding of $30 million and then have a 30% increase when we're considering these other things. So are we doing anything on the front end of these other projects to ensure that when we're considering the price of them or the value of them, is accurate.
And real quick, just, so yes. So the number that we had was really budgeting programming number, not a true estimate that was done per the facility, because it wasn't, initially we programmed the amount years ago before we even started or awarded a construction or a design contract. So that was based on numbers that we had from the market at the time and cost per parking space that we use as a programming number to put in there to allocate the funding for the design as well as the construction. Similarly, on the Civic Center, to your point, we did, and the council funded a effort to do a estimate based on programmatic planning numbers for the Civic Center and theater renovation. We did that about more than a year ago. That was just based on extrapolation of a recent renovation of the BJCC in Birmingham. And then we used those numbers from a market that was done pre-COVID to put into our facility. I can guarantee you that those numbers are going to be higher when that comes back with an updated 25 or 30% design for lots of reasons. But the number one of which is the cost of construction today is at an all-time high. And that's, we're seeing that in every single project. That's not unique to this, but we're going through, and I would say that we have done, and we will continue to do multiple exercises. As a matter of fact, I'm spending all afternoon with the designers today on the Civic Center renovation to go through that exact point to make sure that we look and see what the budget is going to be and get it as tight as we can. So when we come to you with the number on the theater and the arena renovation, we have a lot more, a tighter piece, because what we've, programmed or at least put on the wall as a number 2-3 years ago is going to be different today. And so it's a little higher. Of course, the big thing on this facility is it's all concrete. There's not a lot of wiggle room on that. And the last piece I'll say is that on the facility, and we'll go through, as George said, we'll go through the value engineering. There were things that the ARB wanted in this facility and design elements that have been requested by the ARB and members of the council that maybe you wouldn't put into a facility like this all the time. But to have a certain aesthetic or look, that adds some additional cost.
So, Mr. President, I don't want to work off, when we're considering these things, I don't want to work off these old projected numbers. I want to be, 30% is a big miss. I want to be, as close as I can possibly be as we move forward prior to us getting to decision time when it's on the agenda for approval. So now I guess this isn't just for this project, it's the other ones. Now, is Volker the program manager for Civic Center as well?
Yeah, yes, sir. Leon
Okay.
Barkin,
So
president.
whatever y'all can do to help us know sooner would be very helpful.
Yes, sir. So part of the difference with the Civic Center process versus the parking deck, as George mentioned, we were brought in when the bids were already out. So we had no opportunity to really evaluate the pricing. We've done a lot of work with respect to options to reduce the pricing since the bids have come in, and have worked closely with White Spunner, the low bidder, to give you guys some options to fairly significantly economize on this project. But one of the benefits of bringing us on now for the Civic Center is that we're going to be providing routine milestone estimating as we go through the design process. And we'll be able to update the mayor and the council and staff on where we stand with the project throughout the design process, so we don't have a surprise when we go out for bid. That's the way we handle the design phase of the project.
Mr. President.
And we're, as Mr. Delatte mentioned, we've got a half a day exercise with the designers today on the Civic Center, and we're going to be going through every nut and bolt on the design and making decisions on what the budget really is, and then evaluating that and then determining what we need to do to bring this project into the budget that the council approves.
I don't believe our feelings were any different than your feelings when you saw the same price that we saw. And so immediately we started thinking about what are the options that we have, to maybe try to get back in budget, knowing that the increase in concrete had so much to do with this and the volume of concrete that's in there. And just so you know, the range of things that we have thought about is, do you look at some of the alternatives, take elevators out? We've even talked about taking an entire floor off, to see what that looks like. After going through multiple alternatives, what we've decided is that, and I'll give you the example on the taking an entire floor off. Let's say it's 183 parking places. And so, we're replacing pretty much the parking places that are there. So you would be short, let's just say 200 places going forward. And the thought was, do you then build another parking deck as part of the rest of the build out? Well, the challenge there is, if that's 4 years down the road or 5 years down the road and you're building a bridge, it could be more expensive at that point in time. Do you come back and put the floor on top there instead of another parking facility? It'd be more expensive to do that. So we have looked at it and thought of things that we could present to you, to reduce the cost. But at this point in time, we haven't really come up with something that we could recommend that we think is significant enough, to kind of get us closer to that budget. And yes, bells and whistles and bottle rockets and everything are going off about what does this mean for the entire project. You're looking at a $40 or $50 million increase in the total project. Well, we're about 30% design now, and so when you have those design numbers and Vulcan on board now, I think that our forecasting from here will be more accurate. So let's just say if it comes in $40 million more, what are your alternatives there? Do you renovate the theater at this time? But I don't think that anybody is wanting to say that, we're going ahead regardless of what this thing costs. That is not the way I feel. I don't think that's the way y'all feel. And so what we'll do is we will take this thing very methodically and, walk through it, and then we'll have some decisions to make. But right now, yes, we have concerns about, what it looks like.
Mr. Days and Mr. Penn.
I want to make just one comment while I still have the floor. And that is that I've been a proponent for this parking deck from the outset. I mean, that is, in my opinion, the most important thing right away to this site is to free up the rest of the real estate on the site, is to get the parking deck finished. My comments are just simply based that as we go forward, just tighten up the.
Yeah.
Mr. Days and Mr. Penn.
Thank you all for being here. Excuse me. I support this agenda item. I, like the rest of us, are disappointed that it's going to cost $9.5 million more than we thought it was going to cost. And I'm concerned, as we all are, about what that tells us about the cost of the rest of the renovations to the site. I think we're in a position now where we have to move forward with this, have to move forward with the design as originally, the structure as originally designed. I don't think removing the top floor is a good idea.
No.
I think we're going to need every single parking space we can get on that site, regardless of what happens with the rest of it. And so, while I'm disappointed that we're $9.5 million over what we thought we were going to do, I think we have to move forward with it. But again, as I think we all agree, we need to be really, really careful when we get to the larger project.
Yeah.
Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, just like my other colleagues stated before, when I saw this number being 30% higher, I was very disappointed. I don't think this is a small amount. This is a large amount. And when you think about projects that we have or that we need to accomplish here in the city of Mobile, $10 million is a lot that we could be able to utilize in other areas. And so seeing this amount definitely was disappointing. I understand. I thank you, Mayor, for explaining all the guidelines. You kind of answered some of the questions that was about the state. But at the same time, my concerns are there any other options looking with this with the number being that high? have we reached out to anyone else to see if they can assist us with this amount of money to pay Corps engineers since this is higher? Have we reached out to them about this amount? Are we looking at any other options as well regarding this amount? I think is very vital as well. So have we reached out to them? I mean, what is it? Because on there paying for certain amounts,
No,
they just paying for the parking spots.
correct. This is a city facility. This is to service the Civic Center site. They're just so happen they're going to be renting 151 spots within there. So we have a guaranteed tenant, so to speak, of spots, guaranteed spots. But
So
the
if we
city's
was to-
building this deck for the city purposes. The Corps just happens to be renting some of the spots.
So if we was to take away spots, that would hurt, of course, the whole project. Because that was one option too, was mentioned, right? If we were to take the top off.
It would just impact our ability, as Councilman Dave said, to have the number of spaces available for people to use to go to events and things at the Civic Center.
As well as financial.
Yeah, you lose a revenue of 183 spaces going forward as well.
And you push all that parking into the neighborhoods, which we don't want to do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll.
Yeah, forgive me, guys. I just dug into this morning. So I've got a bunch of questions, and I don't know if you can answer them all right now. So I just heard you say that you guys, as the program managers, did not come up with the budget for the project. All right. Were you guys the designers of the project? Who designed the project?
No, we're the program managers that were hired, Mr. Carroll, mid-bid.
So
So
it-
Evan
it
Terry, Evan Terry is the architect.
Who is?
Evan Terry Associates.
Okay.
They're the architects. We didn't perform any design on this project.
So Evan Terry, normally the bells and whistles go off during the consultant's design review process, either at SD or DD at a certain percentage of the drawings, because pre-construction services on a project like this are required. So at some point, someone knew that we were above $29 million. Why wasn't we told?
Mr. Carroll, I can't speak to that. We weren't around until a couple weeks ago. So
Okay, so in essence, we didn't ask what was going on during the design consultant process because we didn't ask what the numbers were at SD and DD, and we didn't ask what they were at 50% CD. Did we ask? So at that point, we would have known based on what their projections. Okay, so the consultant didn't go out with the proper person to get the current pricing during the design concept. Okay. The other thing I've noticed, and like I said, I haven't dug into this. I see Seco as the sub for the concrete. They're out of Atlanta. That's in itself normally on a job this size is 8 to 9% in rising costs without a local guy because of travel, per diem, expenses, and all of that stuff. Normally on a job like this, you want a local guy. I briefly looked at the drawings. I noticed that this is a cast in place job as opposed to a precast. Cast in place on a job like this is 40% higher than a precast, and we rarely do parking garages anymore that are cast in place. So I'm just curious as to what the thinking was.
Well, if you recall, we gave the entire council, to include yourself, a design review with the architect. If you remember, you sat here, but you left early with the 60% design. So this isn't a surprise of why it was designed and how it was designed.
Mr. Delap, I'm just saying that we all as professionals in this industry, we know that when we see a precast garage versus a cast in place, we're talking extreme costs above and beyond. We all know that. We all know that in the industry now. We all do precast as opposed to cast in place because of the cost. That's standard. I mean, you guys know this just like I do.
It's an option, certainly, but the reason why you do a precast deck, Mr. Carroll, is because of purely life cycle costs. Life cycle
and
costs.
construction costs.
Well, the precast deck is certainly much less expensive on the front end. It's certainly much more expensive as far as maintenance. I think you guys have a precast deck currently that has been a maintenance hindrance to the city. So that's the reason for it. It's more expensive cast in place, but there are significant benefits to a cast in place
Yeah,
deck.
but when you run the numbers, it rarely outruns the life cycle of the facility itself. You're going to have the same crackage and seepage and creek in a cast in place that you do there. Jim, look,
And I wanted to
we
address
can
the,
save money if we go to a precast design as opposed to a cast in place design.
Mr. Carroll, with all due respect, again, we intentionally gave a 60% design review to the entire council. You showed up late and you left early. So what I can say,
Mr.
hang on,
Lab-
let me finish.
Hold on.
I just want to answer the question. That there's no surprise at the form of the design. The other thing is we did a market study before we started the design. Besides what is being said here, the precasters that are available were extremely backed up for work, and it would not also have met our timeline. But the biggest factor is being on a coast with a precast design. It becomes a huge problem with all the exposed metal elements, which we are facing on the parking deck at the cruise terminal. So he's exactly right. The cast in place reduces our life cycle cost. It is somewhat more upfront cost, but it will last much longer and have much less maintenance.
Yeah.
And again, you were part of that design
Yeah,
review.
I did not review the drawings at the time, and I still haven't, and there were not cut sheets available for me to know whether or not it was precast or cast in place. The question is that there's a tremendous amount of savings versus for precast versus cast in place. Is that not correct?
that is correct.
Thank you. And we're looking at about 30 to 40% savings versus what we have right now. Is that
It's
That not
correct,
correct?
but I mean, it can't be looked at as a standalone item.
I understand. The reason why I'm asking, not to cut you off, is that I just glanced at this morning. Over 50% of our cost is concrete and precast,
Mhm.
which I don't know, how many spaces in here?
It's a little over 1,000. Yeah.
How many?
1,026.
So that's $42,000 a space. Is that 36? Somewhere in the high 30s, $40,000 a space. You know, parking decks are all over the place right now. Turquoise right now, which is on the water, which I have just been told that precast is the way to go when you're that close, but turquoise is cast in place and it's right on the water, and it's at a hotel and it's right there at the bay. So I don't see the thinking right there, the concept. I think that may be somewhat telling based on what we're trying to do. But in my mind, there's two big engines here. One is that the subcontractor probably has about 7 to 8% of that cost in additional general conditions or general requirements because of his time to get here without local participation. And then there's a huge cost savings that we can take advantage of with precast versus cast in place.
So the question about the local versus out of town contractor, I haven't addressed that. So Seco is the concrete sub. They're a very large concrete contractor that travels throughout the Southeast, does their work. A big portion of their work, Mr. Carroll, is actually going to be done by the local finisher Empire. And so,
Empire?
yes, sir.
Jared Miller?
And so we had 5 bidders. The bids were very close. This was a highly competitive bid process. And all the local contractors clearly had the opportunity to bid on this project. It is a very clean, very desirable project for contractors to do. They all had opportunities to bid on it. And so we have to take the lowest bidder, obviously, on this project. Seco was the lowest bidder, whether they had per diem and extra general conditions or not. They clearly were the lowest bidder.
Well, I'm assuming that nobody local actually bid it. I talked to Empire this morning, by the way. They said they're not even involved in the project.
That's my understanding with White Splendors here. That
Talked to Jared this morning.
Seco is going to be using Empire to do the finishing of the project.
Like I said,
okay.
I mean, you were in my office when we were talking to him. He has no idea. Also talked to the concrete company. Concrete company has stated that the specifications call for shrinkage, additive, corrosive additive, which has driven the cost up to about $210 a yard. It's roughly $17,000, 17,000 yards of concrete in the job. So we're only talking about $3.5 million in concrete. So we're talking about another 10 to $13 million in cost of form material and labor, which again, that's a big number. You know, so something isn't adding up right to me when we talk about the cost of concrete and the cost of precast right here. I mean, if it was me, I would put it back out for bid and encourage the local guys to get heavily involved with it. That's what I would do. At 30%, that's a big number to swallow, knowing that there's some serious VE items that we can take into consideration for the job.
Well, I think the VE items are being looked at as a way to possibly reduce the cost of the job. I think putting this job back out for bid, Mr. Carroll will guarantee a higher price.
Well,
We bid work. We bid work every day. This market, not just here, but throughout Alabama, is incredibly busy right now. We've got a multi-billion-dollar concrete bridge that's in the process of being designed, about to be bid. We've got a massive airport project that's about to be put out for bid. And so the market here is not hungry.
Yeah.
They're satiated. And so putting it out for bid when we see the cost of construction literally going up every day, will guarantee a higher bid.
Well, I agree with that. Right now, the cost of escalation, when we talk about the Civic Center, you guys put 3% in there per year. So I heard Mr. Lapp say this morning that we started looking at this project a couple of years ago. Was the cost of escalation included in $29 million that we had out there? I don't remember any of that or seeing that. And I'm not pushing you guys right now, but there's truly ways to value engineer this project to where we can get it to close enough to our budget to where we're not expending, 29 plus 9. So we're talking $39 million. I mean, there's a way to get a lot of this cost under control and have a viable project without necessarily doing it the way it's designed right now and taking advantage of our VE list. And I didn't see a VE list in here. All I see is a contract that we're asked to be approved today, which does not include any VEs.
Remind you what Mr. Talbot said. Today's the first read, and that we have a VE briefing to present to the council at your pleasure that Volker will present. It's ready to go. So when you want to see it, we can present some other options in which you can reduce the cost. It's all a matter of what we decide to do with that. So that's ready to go, and we're prepared to do that between now and next week, anytime.
I can do this. I can do this later. George asked me to talk to him. George, I'm sorry, but I told you I was traveling. This is the first time I've even had to talk about this, and I just briefed it this morning. But there are just too many questions based on the design and everything else, and then we can talk about this later. Okay,
Mr. Reynolds, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, the additive alternates 1 and 2. Just briefly tell me what the additive alternates were.
Right there. Yeah, the ad alternates. That would be.
Right. So as Mr. Delap, excuse me, apologize for my voice, mentioned initially, there were some requirements when this project went through the ARB. And one of those requirements was the skin on all 4 sides. And so we bid it trying to really localize what that cost was going to be, and did that through an alternate process. But what the ARB has approved is skinning this facility on all 4 sides. So the base bid did not have all 4 sides skinned. It had 2 sides skinned. The alternate was to add 2 additional sides skinning. And then the alternate 2 is there were 4 elevators, I think 1 on each corner of the building that was part of the base bid, and then 2 additional elevators midway along the long side were added.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a quick.
Ms. Gregory.
And of course, with those alternate bids, that would make it less expensive, correct?
If we didn't accept them, yes, they would be less expensive. I would caution, however, that the ARB is already approved,
Yeah, I understand
and
that.
to go through a
Yeah.
reapproval process could take several months and would jeopardize the schedule.
Well, I appreciate you all coming and being here, the entire team, and for the better explanation that we have gotten, because what happened with the council last week, we got emails from the media and other people like shockwaves, 9 million more. So I appreciate the explanation, and we will be looking forward to hearing the results of the meetings that you all are having on some value engineering, looking at these designs to see where some changes could be made to maybe make it a little bit less expensive, but we certainly understand what's happening with the construction cost. Every project we see, double, triple the cost these days. So I guess we just have to get ready for that. And certainly as we go forward with those old estimates that Jim talked about, and we just have to be ready to raise those much higher so that we are better prepared for, what they wind up being. Yeah.
Well, Ms. Gregory and council, what we commit to you is on the Civic Center project, you guys are going to be informed every step of the way. We're going to be doing routine estimates. If there is an issue, we're not going to be shy about telling you about it.
Appreciate that.
So we're
Yeah.
all going to be on the same page when we bid the Civic Center.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk.
21-12-13, authorized contract with Thompson Engineering for US 45 streetscape improvements, $25,000. 21-12-14, authorized contract with White Spunner Construction for Mobile Civic Center parking facility, $38,160,000. 25-12-15, accept 5 temporary construction easements and 1 permanent sidewalk easement for the Highway 45 streetscapes improvement project. 25-12-16, grant permanent sanitary sewer easement and temporary construction easement to the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners of the City of Mobile. 31-12-17, authorize the mayor to apply, accept, and receive a grant for the Hurricane Response Marine Debris Removal Fund through the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, $463,441.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Ms. Reynolds.
So there are some derelict vehicles boats that have been in Dog River for some time. Is this going to take care of that? I mean, what level of priority are we giving this money to Dog River is, I guess, the real question.
Let Ms. Callaway talk about the areas. I think there's a sequence in areas that they're focused on.
We spent about a year last year collecting a list of every single derelict vessel. We had community reports of them. We had individual reports of them, plus our officers, the Coast Guard, several lists. But the 2 priority areas are Dog River, and then we got additional funds too. We might stretch into Fowl River just because of the nature of this grant and what we're able to do with it. The first priority, we got the grant officially last week. So what we do now is go through the process of determining what the permits are that are required, setting a staging area, but the very first one, for all of your knowledge, is that NAVCO, the boat at NAVCO Park. So that one is one that we get calls on about every 20 minutes, I think, on 311. So we have a really good list, and I'll provide that list to you. If you find others, we can add them to our roster. Some are really easy and low-hanging fruit that we can get ourselves. There are a couple that we will also do an RFP because they're larger. So we'll have to hire a third-party contractor to come and do. The second big thing this grant does is it also removes old pieces of wharf that are kind of dangerous or in navigational hazard areas. So we're also going through a process where we'll do that. So like pilings that have been there and eliminated by storm, especially ones that are kind of hard to figure out who owned them and how they were put there. So we're also working with our phenomenal legal team to make sure we do all those processes right, because there is no funding mechanism in any agency, federal, state, or local, to pick up these old boats or even old materials.
Mr. Reynolds.
I haven't read what this grant is, but you define the derelict vehicle vessels and then pieces of wharfs or docks.
Yes, sir.
And this does say marine debris removal. There have been trees down across canals and alongside river banks. Do we plan or intend to use some of this grant to clear that out?
I don't think so.
It's
The name of the
hurricane-related.
grant is marine debris removal, and the marine debris that we applied to remove are derelict vessels and pieces of wharf. So the grant name is marine debris removal. So that's what NOAA and National Fish and Wildlife Foundation put together.
So my request, and after I review the list, it'll be very helpful.
Yes, sir.
But my request was before we move to Fowl River, to consider an amended application or, some conversation with the grantor about removing those fallen trees as a result of hurricanes that are still in canals, before we move to funding removal of boats in Fowl River. I don't think any part of Fowl
The
River.
grant is pretty specific, but absolutely. And please, if you'll send me, if y'all know, once I send you the list so that you can check it off. If you find other vessels, if you find other pieces of wharf, if you find areas like that, we also have some other partners who can help with that as well. So I'll take a look at that. But when I get back to my office, I'll send you all the list and I'll also send you the grant if you didn't have that already in your.
There is a blind curve at Dog River just coming around the past. It has about 3 or 4 logs and some 6x6s sticking up out of the ground right there that continuously cause harm, especially when the tide's a little high, you can't see it. So you're saying that this grant can't help us there?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. I'd have to look at the area. If it's anything man-made, it may already be on our list. If it's from hurricane removal or hurricane debris, there may be a difference with that. I just have to double check. That's not what we applied to do. What we applied to do is not remove hurricane debris. We applied to remove vessels.
Yeah,
So it's just, I just have to check.
Yeah,
I'm not saying no.
the growing traffic on Dog River is, it's becoming almost like it used to be 20 years ago with so many people down there in a good day. You never know what you're going to hit in the water, and that's just a bad curve along with that spot at Lipscomb's Landing. But you're telling us that it may not cover it. I just need to see. I need to read it.
If it's a navigation hazard,
It is.
then that would be the Coast Guard or the Marine Police. So anything that is a navigation hazard can be removed by Marine Police or by the Coast Guard. So that's an easy one. If there was a boat in the middle of a river that was blocking navigation, the Coast Guard or Marine Police could remove it. The vessels that we are going to remove are not navigation hazards. They are on the side of the road or on the side of a waterway. They're not in the way.
More like blighted.
Exactly.
So-
It's
yeah.
blight that we have applied to remove. Again, I did not say we will not do it or we are not allowed to do it. I said I would check.
Does
and with joy.
does it require us to send a letter maybe to the Coast Guard and the Marine Police with the location of those spots? You're out there quite a bit too. Is that
So is
worth
the
sending
Coast
a
Guard and
letter
Marine
from us?
Police, They should.
So it should
an
come
easy
from.
phone
It should
call.
go to
My
us.
suggestion would be, let's look at the list, see if there are any opportunities there to address it on our own. If not, then, we'll work through other options.
Yes.
Right, Mr. President?
That's correct.
Please feel free to send me any other sites or locations. Once you have that, I'm happy to look into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're adding 311218, and this is authorizing the subaward grant agreement with Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for amendment to the existing grant. This is the additional $5 million for innovating St. Louis Street.
Yay.
Announcements, next week's meeting will be held Wednesday, November the 8th.
And did I understand correctly that we're only going to have 2 meetings in December? The middle 2 Tuesdays,
Yes.
correct? And that's because they'll be in
From
Germany.
the first week and the Christmas break the last week.
Okay.
Anything from the council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Woods and Mr. Carroll.
just want to put this on everybody's radar. That chapter 25 ordinance. I'm not going to set a date for another meeting. I just need to know if we need to have another meeting, if everybody's comfortable with what is and if it can go on agenda. If we have to set another meeting, we'll set it next week. But Miss Callaway's worked very hard with her team and her staff and her side of the house, and we need to at least do something and get this moving. So
Have there been any revisions yet?
there's some that's sitting, should be sitting in your inbox. So we'll take a look at it
Today?
I believe it came last week. I'll get the revisions to you.
I don't remember
Okay.
seeing. Yeah.
I'll follow up.
I don't remember seeing any of that.
Okay.
My deadline for y'all was to get it to you perfectly well today. So our team finished it on Friday and we will do it now and you'll have it Friday today.
Let's just see what the revisions are, and then I kind of suspect we're going to need
Set
another
one,
committee meeting.
Okay. We'll plan for that. We'll set that date next week if that's not with y'all. See.
Mr. Carroll?
If possible, I'd like you guys to add to your newsletter. The Bid Downtown has a development academy where they're teaching individuals how to become developers in the city and how to go through the process of developing properties. With all that we're doing for affordable housing, I want to ask that you guys add that, and the mayor too, if you can, get it out in your newsletter about this class that's coming up where they're actually teaching individuals with the resources to be developers in our community. They have a PDF flyer. It should, right. I've asked it to send to Ashley, but I didn't want to do it without permission from all of you guys.
Yeah, right. We're not generally asked.
Anything else from this council? Administration? Mr. Woods?
Yeah, we have one matter for executive session this afternoon. It'll last about 10 or 15 minutes. We've certified it as appropriate for executive session based on the economic development aspects and the potential acquisition or sale of real estate.
So
Who is he again? Yeah, you didn't identify yourself.
Britton Bonner, attorney for the city.
So move proper second in the discussion. Roll call.
President Small,
Yes.
Vice President Gregory,
Yes.
Councilmember Penn,
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll,
Yes.
Councilmember Reynolds, Councilmember Daves.
yes.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
We see everyone at 10:30.
Ben, is this Hurricane Sally